Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome to the Backshed Bible Study, episode number 27. It's October 5th, 2020. That means we're about 30 weeks into life under COVID, and it's going to be, as I say every week, it is going to be a fantastic day. And today, especially because I have Sara Miller on board with us. Sara, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
It is so fun to have you here. Now, I have to tell you, it was maybe 3 months ago that Luke said, "Oh, you should get Sara sometime." And I thought, like, that's a fantastic idea. I definitely should get Sara. And we have joining us already online, Donna Dews is on board. Donna,
Nice.
thank you so much for jumping on board. Are you back at home yet, or are you still hanging out over near the ocean as you were last week? Sara, I don't know. I do want to hear a little bit about your family escapades this weekend. I hear that you all got to see a little more of California and
Oh, for
um,
sure.
kind
Yeah.
of do some fun things. So let's clarify. So if you're watching the Back Shed for the first time, my name's Cliff. I'm one of the pastors at Sunrise Community Church in beautiful Fair Oaks, California. And this is Sara Miller, and
My name's
Sara
Sara.
and her husband Luke are joining us at Sunrise. Luke is set to be our senior slash lead, I don't know, pastor, and this feels like we're days or weeks out rather than months out, which is amazing. So, but you guys got to go to Tahoe this last week, did you?
Yeah, that was awesome. Never been. And so we got a little bit of the outdoors, a taste of the outdoors. We went through the tunnels
The
and I
railroad
had
tunnels, like
yeah,
those are so crazy.
it was awesome. And I was like mom of the year because like I had glow sticks with me. And so it was like awesome. There was not very many people in there, but when they were in there, they could just see this flashing like orange and red, like bracelets and necklaces. And yeah, it was
So,
awesome.
so about 5 years ago, I took our high school students up there on a student leadership retreat, and we hiked in those things probably a mile in, and but I wouldn't let them take any flashlights or phones or anything. So we get along the way, and it is just pitch black. Like you cannot see a thing, but like this distant, light out in the um, way out there.
Yeah,
Out
in
in
the
the
far end.
unknown distance. I don't even have it
Well,
quite
and they
like
have
that.
some light peeping in, but yeah, I get it. With no
Right.
light of
Yeah.
flashlight, that would be crazy. Yeah.
So and so you guys were up there. Did you go over to Tahoe? Did you
Yeah, so we
uh,
did we did just like a little bit of the hiking. I'm not in a lot of the pictures because I did not want anyone to see me
so Donna's
hiking.
asking about that right now. She
Yes.
says, I didn't see you in any of the pictures. So is it, she says needs to do some selfies with the family.
Oh, okay.
You
Okay.
know.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I will. Yeah, I wanted to be in the light show in the tunnels. Yeah, no, I will definitely be in more pictures. Great, I gotta do my hair.
Great. Well, no, she was asking if you were the one taking the pictures. So
I
that's
was taking the pictures.
yeah.
Sometimes I think that's sometimes how it is though, that like there's a lot of the camera person's taking the great photos and all that, and then they're hardly in any pictures by choice or not by
Mhm.
choice
Yep. Yep.
sometimes. So yep.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, it's good. So and then did you get to experience a little? I saw on social media that you all were out on Lake Natoma yesterday, I think.
Yeah, that was awesome. With some friends, we're out there. And so once again, I was not on the kayak and neither was Luke. So that's okay too. And we had a great time visiting. And the boys are just so adventurous. You know, they're not used to this water life, but they just look like fish out there. So I got informed that we need to do paddle boarding and
Mhm.
all of that as a family now. So I'm going to jump into that one. So yeah.
All right. All right. Well, you're welcome to Sacramento.
Right? It was,
Um,
yeah, just great.
oh boy. Well, oh goodness gracious, the comments are going crazy down
Oh,
here.
wow.
Yes, Donna wants you to know we love you and don't worry about your hair being perfect. So,
Thank you, Donna. You're so sweet.
and I can't wait for you to get to know Donna. She is, if you haven't met Donna yet, she is just a fun, outgoing, godly woman that loves to serve and has been a part of Sunrise for forever and is, part of our group of, how do we say this? Senior saints? No,
You know what I say? I say young at heart.
young at
Young
heart.
at heart.
Okay, so
I
so
don't know
I've
if
got
that's
it.
okay. Or
I've got
vintage, because vintage is now a
vintage.
cool thing.
Well,
Vintage.
right. I know.
Yeah.
We have vintage in our house.
Yeah. Farmhouse style vintage.
Uh, so so here's the thing that blows me away, and I think this is a fun way to segue into what a little bit of what we're going to talk about. But this morning at 9 o'clock on my cell phone, I get a call, and the number that's ringing is a local number. And for me, because I have an out of town cell phone number, I answer these calls
Yeah.
because usually a local number is not somebody that's wanting to extend my automobile warranty or anything like that. And where if I get a call from my own area code, which is down in Fresno, then usually it's just a robocall. But anyway, all of that to say, the number was showing 916, so I answer the call, and at the other end is Lloyd and Muriel Willoughby.
Okay.
And the Willoughbys are just this amazing vintage couple that we have in our church. Like I love the Willoughbys. Like they are
Mhm.
just the most down to earth, salt of the earth, kind-hearted people you could ever meet. And they just said, we're not able to be at church, in this COVID season and all that. But we wanted to call you as one of our pastors and just encourage you, pray for you. And we just spent 10 minutes on the phone talking, getting encouraged. They were praying for me. I prayed
Right.
for them. But like best way ever to start the morning. And it was just from some seasoned, godly people who get it. And Sarah, I think the thing that one of the things that stood out most to me when I met you a little over a year ago, crazy,
I know, right?
um, a year and actually probably 13, 14 months ago. But what stood out to me was you really have a heart for our older generation of people that are around. So I wanted to make that kind of the primary focus this morning,
Awesome. Yeah.
that people could hear your heart, and even like how God led you to be. No, vintage is not another way for saying antique. Okay. Um, Vintage is hip. Like vintage
Mhm.
is cool.
Yeah,
Anyway,
vintage
not
is cool
antique.
now. The
Not.
the housing, like everyone wants that style. That's why I said farmhouse,
Yeah,
vintage farmhouse style.
yeah,
Yeah. Vintage is a
exactly.
cool thing. Yeah.
Joanna Gaines. Anyway, so where did your heart grow for loving on our seniors?
So, like way back when I was starting work, or now, because I just got a huge heart for seniors. So,
Well, just like
yeah,
this was your work back in Canada. Like, yeah,
yeah.
like how did that develop?
So, when I was younger, I was afraid of older people. I remember being taken to seniors' homes or retirement residents, and I would practice my music festival singing. I was always in singing or musical theater, and I'm sure I scared them because I was also sometimes dressed up in my music theater
Right?
outfits. But I just didn't feel comfortable. I was a little bit nervous, and I had grandparents, but it's always different when you're walking
Right.
into a room and you're the only younger generation. And so I still kept doing that and did like little singing competitions or practicing or performances for school choirs. We would go to senior residencies. Um, My grandmother was in a residency, but my heart was just never with seniors until I actually got older. And I remember always praying the silly prayer, but just it's a big prayer, and saying, God, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Right.
And then I
Yep.
get into my 30s and I'm like, God, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And so it's my graduating class all knew what they wanted to do. And I still really struggled with this. And I realized that actually I related to a lot of people that they had a lot of giftings, but they didn't really know what to do with it. So I just kind of thought, you know what? I'm going to take my heart and what I love to do, and I'm going to have fun because I want to wake up every day and love what I do, but also serve while I'm doing
Yeah.
it. And so I just kind of rolled with it. And in doing so, I did different career paths along the way, different jobs that had nothing to do with seniors. And then it wasn't until a friend of ours actually mentioned on a Christmas Eve service that we had at our church. And we were doing music together. And he mentioned that he worked at a place with seniors. And my reaction was actually, oh, okay. And he's like, Sarah, you would be great for this. And I was like, you need to understand something. I don't think old people like me. And that was my reaction. And then he was a little bit taken back and he was like, oh, but that doesn't matter. Like they'll get to know you. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know if I like old people.
And the
And
truth
so
comes
I didn't know.
out, right?
Being honest, right? It's always like when
Right.
we say we don't want to
Yeah.
do something. And so I actually dove into it. The more that I read into it and read online and studied things, I was like, you know what? Like I think I could do this. Why not? Why not just jump into it, and I'm going to have a willing heart. And yeah, it's amazing. With that faithfulness, I just jumped in, and yeah, it's an amazing story. It's my story. It's Christ's story working through me. And yeah.
I love it because doesn't that just, and by the way, if you see me struggling, my dog came in and she's
Hi,
jumping up on me,
sunshine.
right? Hi,
Sit down,
sunshine.
yeah.
Hey, ow, no bite. No bite. We're teaching her not to bite.
Yeah.
Got that? Okay, good girl. So I love that because that's totally that 2 Corinthians 12, where like God's power is made perfect in our weakness, where you
Yeah,
have this area where you think that, I'm no good at that. And then you just see God go, let me show you how I'm going to use you, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
But
And I just had that willingness. So I knew, and yeah, I thought I didn't have any of the gifting, but I didn't
right.
realize how much patience I had, how much love, how much empathy, sympathy, all of that I
All of
had,
that.
knowledge. Um, I always felt like I wasn't book smart and that I couldn't go to school and go to university or take courses. And God was like, no, I'm
Right.
going to use you where you're at and take your heart. So yeah, it's an awesome testimony just for people that are struggling with what are you going to be when you grow up, or what do you want to do. And I don't regret any of the decisions that I made of my career before. I did hairstyling, I did makeup. I love doing that to make people feel better. And I had great conversations, but in my heart for myself, I knew this wasn't it.
Interesting.
I got to meet people and it was great at the moment, but I knew that I just was to do something else. Yeah.
That's
You okay there?
We're fine. Sunshine just jumped up and grabbed a piece of paper off of my counter, and then just took off. She was like, I'm content now. I got something.
Yeah. She's
So
like, I'm taking the script and we're going.
we're going. So we're all winging it here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here's what we're going to do. I'm going to shift over to my other camera because it's so much fun.
Oh, whoa. Look at that view.
I know it's crazy,
You really are in a shed.
you really are, right? So I'm closing the door so that she can't get
Right.
back in is what's happening here.
Has this ever happened in the history of the Backshed Bible study?
Well, this is what I love about the Backshed Bible Study is it's just a mess. Like it is, we can be messy and everyone's okay with it. Like
Yeah.
that's it's normal. So,
It's being real. Yeah.
but, and even like right now, I'm looking at this camera, but I see nothing. So but all of you
Oh,
are over here. And
oh,
so I've got to
yeah.
switch cameras because it's driving me crazy. Um, there we go. So this is, I like
Oh,
the spontaneity of things here.
yep. There we go. That's
So Alyssa Swartz says fellow gerontologist in the house. Wow, I didn't even know that word.
what is it?
Gerontologist, someone that works with geriatrics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my goodness. All right.
I didn't even know that had a title. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
So
Golly,
fancy.
thanks, Alyssa. No air conditioning in the shed yet, just so y'all know. I don't need it. It's beautiful outside today. Golly. Okay, so here's how I see things. It's there's a tension in the church. And when I say the church, I don't mean Sunrise, but there's just a tension in the church on um, how we minister to and work with people that are in the older generation,
Hmm.
right? And it's I think some people will attend a church and they feel like the older people have been put out to pasture.
Hmm.
Some people will attend a church and they feel like we're playing the certain kind of music and whatever to be attractive to the younger people, at
Yep.
the expense. And um, or that, hey, it's the young people that we need to have on the platform, or it's the young people that we need.
Yeah.
I'm trying to address every single potential elephant that can show up in the room right now.
Yeah. For
um,
sure.
and just real things that have come up, at Sunrise since in the time I've been here. But
Yeah.
hey, it's the young people are the church of today, and so we need to have them in there. And so older people can start to feel like they're being put out to pasture, like
Hmm.
that they're being not avoided, but they're almost forsaken,
Yeah.
for the sake of younger, more hip kind of things. Like how, and so what I'd love to dig into a little bit is how do we, just as a church, as God's people, how do we have an environment that is relevant for all ages? This is like the impossible question to ask in a church, right?
Absolutely. It's hard, right? Because everyone will think of their dynamics. Like, I know when Luke and I were first married, we're thinking, okay, let's get to know some other married couples that don't have kids. And
Right.
then you start to have kids and you're like, okay, now we need to have some friends that have kids too, because you're at a stage of life and that's where you never think sometimes beyond that. But it's always that mentorship and being mentored. And I love, and this is kind of a little plug that I'm going to put in, but our rooted group that we have on the Monday nights is
Yeah.
different generations.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's great because Luke and I have done it before. We did it at our church plant back home in Canada. And that was a huge thing, as you'd see people of all ages. And even sometimes like our son would cut, like, our kids would be playing in the background, or they'd go over to someone and bring them a picture that they drew, just getting involved with each other's lives. But yeah, it is a tough one in the church because um you'll always, where you're at in your life, you're always, sometimes you can just feel like, okay, there's either too much geared towards kids or youth or
Right.
seniors. And yeah, it is that hard balance. Now for myself, what I found is taking Christ's work within us, from where we're at. So I step out of the box with my kids and we go to seniors residents,
Right.
or we draw them pictures or cards and get them involved. So there's that I'm not afraid of you aspect.
Exactly.
And yeah, and even, people volunteering, doing different things. Like, I love the stockade group because you've got the younger kids looking up to older stockade leaders, and my boys
Right.
just
And
love
they're,
that.
sitting there like helping teach them how to make a
Yeah.
kind of a derby car and
Yeah. And
passing on
for
these
sure.
things. Because I mean, Kathy Wainscott says here, it's like, hey, older people have wisdom, like they have something to
For
offer. She also
sure.
says most of the time, in parentheses, which
And
knowing
a lot of,
Kathy,
yeah, a lot of
Kathy,
people,
you're a
younger
wild
people with
one, I know.
energy. Yeah.
Um, Also, Trudy, by the way, is making all kinds of comments this morning, but I'll let you all talk offline. She
Okay.
loves your backdrop here this morning. Um,
Oh, wow.
so this is something that I think a lot of parents, I hate to use the word failed in, but I think a lot of us parents don't do a great job of, and that is um, exposing our children to adults
Mm,
in a way that they can have an intelligent conversation with an adult.
absolutely.
And even the R word, the dreaded R word, is respect. Like
Mm,
where they have, growing up in an environment where they have respect for someone older than them, and
absolutely.
and they're not freaked out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I actually, one thing was I would take my boys to my work. Um, and I would sometimes on my days off as well too, and I'd tell them, I want you to think of a list of questions and you're going to ask each person one question. And I love that one of the questions was always, have you ever been to Disneyland? Or or
Right.
how many pets did you have? And it was really cool seeing the relationship grow as I found out things about the seniors that I didn't know. Or, like one lady was like, I had 4 horses and these were their names. Or I went to Disney World or whatever, Disneyland, like this many times. And you're like, what? Like things that you wouldn't even think of. So, yeah. And just also, it was really nice for the seniors also to see my boys too, because they said, wow, a lot of kids young nowadays are kind of on their phones or on the internet all the
Right.
time, and they don't know how to run around and play and have fun. And my boys were able to play cards with someone or play like a little game or, like do a puzzle with them. So, yeah, it's nice that we all have views of sometimes what we think the other generation is or isn't. Yeah.
Right. Now, okay. So I love and to my friends that are out there watching, yeah, all of you are watching. Our average age of people that demographic of people that watch the Back Shed are 65+ year old women, and so that that's kind of our draw here.
That's
So
that's wonderful.
I'm good with that,
Yeah.
and y'all are my friends. Um, so if I'm going to be able to challenge a few 65+ year old women this morning, how do we, as older people, because suddenly my kids are calling me old, and I have gray hair that's coming along the side, and
Vintage hair.
the last two
Vintage hair.
years have added quite a bit of gray hair to my head. But how do we, now that are older, be able to look at that kid that's sitting there on the phone that's driving me batty
Mm-hmm.
because they're just doing this the whole time, right?
Yeah.
How do we as older people, older generations, and you and I haven't talked about any of this ahead of time, so we're just,
No,
if you don't know any answers, just say I have no clue.
I have no
um,
clue.
but how do we learn how to embrace even the ones that don't know how to talk to us and don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to talk to seniors, right? Because that can be a
Mm-hmm.
little awkward, because
Yeah.
I know a lot of seniors that are like, hey kids, like you need to have some respect.
Yeah.
And okay, so they've never been taught that. Then how do we reach down into their lives, into those
Yeah.
young lives as seniors?
For
I say
sure.
we very loosely there,
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
as someone with a
Um.
2-year-old.
Yeah. Were you asking me
Yeah,
that or
yeah,
on the?
yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
sorry. I
that's
was
it.
like,
Let's just
I'm like
talk about
Donna.
it.
Do you
Let's
have any
talk about it.
answers too? Yeah. um. Yeah. So I think it just goes back to the basics, just the simplicity of it all, too, and just yeah. I know with I don't know. I had my boys start doing a pen pal thing. So going back to, instead of the email, doing writing. So they're practicing their writing skills. So that's a benefit for them and myself as a mother. That's good because then they're practicing their penmanship. And then even with the seniors, they're getting mail. So it's a reminder of the days. I know a lot of the
Mhm.
war veterans love that because they loved getting um, mail from family that would take
Right.
a long time to get. Or
My
some of
mom
them even had,
adores mail.
for sure, or like
Yeah.
even love letters that they had that they would
Yeah.
show me that they had from the past. So going back to the basics and simplicity. Yeah, and we kind of have to give a little give and take on both ends.
right?
Sometimes a little bit more than not so much. So
Well,
yeah,
I remember, so when my parents were a little bit older, and I mean, because I was born when my mom was 38, and I think my dad was 39, um, which is funny to think now that I'm doing that exact same thing to my own
yeah,
kids. But I totally remember when my parents became grandparents from my sister, and uh, they both took very different approaches to grandparenting, where my mom was the get down on the floor, play with the kid, do all of that on their level. And my dad would sit back in the easy chair and go, come on up here to Papa, and I'll hang
yeah,
out.
yeah,
And you can climb on me all you want, but it's kind
yeah,
of like on my terms.
yeah,
And my mom was very much like doing things on their terms.
yeah,
And I think there's like something for some seniors to learn in that way, is like, especially that kid that's down here on their phone, like
yeah,
maybe we need to figure out how we can do some things on their terms. And
yeah,
oh,
for sure. And like even I know, um, so a little story, like a short little story, but when I would be singing in the seniors residencies, and it's funny that I remember this, but there was this lady that had a pot full of, like a little cooking pot or whatever, full of candies. They were wrapped and they were like candies. And I remember out of all the people, I like wanted to go see her because I wanted some candy, like from her little pot.
right,
But
right,
I
exactly.
know, but it's like, I don't know. I just remember, but there was a resident that I had that she said that she would always keep the wrapped candies or the little, like, I don't want to put like a plug for like a brand or anything, but Skittles or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Starburst,
Oh, you can do that.
because our
We have no
suckers. And
sponsors.
she said when she would see other people's grandkids, she didn't have grandkids that would visit, so she knew that that would bring kids together, or stickers or something. And it's so true, because that would be the first stop my boys wanted to make when we would do our rounds, is let's go see the candy lady or the sticker lady. And then they talk. So I mean, something like that, right? Or they draw like a picture of them holding candies and give it to her. And yeah, so it's kind of funny that that's one of the things that I remember.
Yeah, but that's that's the thing. I think it's easy to assume that kids should be growing up in a way that they're respecting adults and all that, but they're
Exactly.
they're not being raised, they're not
Yeah.
necessarily being raised that way. And so
Yeah.
somehow we've got to reach down from our older down to the younger, and find some middle ground sometimes, and understand they're not raised the way I was raised, and my kids
Yeah.
aren't the way I was raised.
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
and
Yeah.
there's some bad things about that and some very good things about that. So
Exactly. And even though I was raised where, you went to the seniors residencies and the retirement homes, or you
yeah,
visited them, I was still scared. I still didn't, but it's ingrained in me. And I do remember little aspects. And so it's almost like, even though my parents did involve me too, it was a lot of give and take on both sides.
yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so let's oh my goodness gracious, I just looked at the clock. Okay, because I want to transition into talking about being a pastor's wife, okay? So
Hmm.
that'll be fun. But uh any we'll use that word intergenerational, okay? So that's as opposed to multi-generational. Like multi-generational would be a church, let's say, that's multi-generational, would have lots of different things for different ages, where an
Yeah.
intergenerational church is trying to do a lot of the same things with multiple ages at the same
Mm.
time. So um, any more thoughts about how we can just better as a church be intergenerational, even as a society be intergenerational? um,
Yeah, we always say like get involved, or try and volunteer, or try and see stuff. It's exactly goes back to the simplicity of, even with myself, realizing that this wasn't like a career, this was a passion, this was a way of serving. So find things that you love and that you're good at. And whether it's something as easy as woodworking, There's a lot of people that do woodworking or crafting or crocheting. My grandmother taught me how to knit and crochet when I was 12 years old. I was the only grandchild that wanted to learn. And it was such a wonderful bonding time. And I loved it because in that simple moment of her teaching me how to make mittens or toques, you guys call them
Yeah.
beanies.
That's all good. You can call it
Right,
anything all you want.
right.
Yeah.
We would get into the simple
Right.
conversations of what's your favorite color, grandma? Or when you were little, did you do this? Or, little things. And then that grew into bigger and stronger conversations. And then that trust and that friendship was there. So just taking our gifts and just, you can start within, just take your gifts and what you like or what you're good at. And if you say you're not good at anything,
not true.
That's not true. Yeah. Even cooking, like there's so many, you said that the age demographics is 65 and plus, or
Right.
60 and plus. Cooking, that was a big thing that my son just said to me, Mommy, I want to know how to make a hard-boiled egg. I'm like, well, I could teach you that.
Right.
But little things like that. So just like teaching how to cook or craft, or so many things.
And it's like anything else, is like if you can figure out ways for both generations, multiple generations, to be able to do things with each other.
Exactly.
And sometimes it means compromise on both sides,
Yeah.
or it means like willing to give up the exact thing I want to do. And
exactly. Another fun one that I will mention is board games, bringing it back to that. Doing like family board game nights and inviting people, or even bringing a board game. I love the board game Jenga. And that is, anyone can play. It's so simple, all those little games like that. So it's fun.
Exactly. I'm gonna give you all, I'm gonna switch cameras here for a second, because the view I have right now is fantastic, and I wish you all could see it. As I totally get distracted, this is what happens. This is my dog Sunshine right now. And
oh my goodness,
loving, she takes this hose and she'll just play with it, wrap herself up in it and all that. So there
she
you
is
go.
so big now.
She is huge.
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
she's only
is that
6
as big
months
as
old.
she'll get, or she's gonna get bigger?
No, she's gonna get bigger.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's scary. All right, there you go.
Yeah. So she's just been entertained for this while doing that.
Right.
So do you ever turn on the hose sometimes and just like watch it?
Well, I one day in a bit of a moment of anger at something she had done, I decided to let loose on the hose. That probably wasn't the wisest thing. But she's a lab retriever. She loves water. So
yeah,
right.
I can't believe how big she is.
Okay, Sarah, you are filling the position, whether you like to or not, of pastor's wife at Sunrise Community Church. You are starting into that position. What kind of expectations are there, do you come in having as the wife of our new pastor? And I think the follow-up question to that is, how can we as a church be supportive and encouraging you as the wife of our pastor? Is that a fair question?
That's great. I'm going to blend them in together, the questions, and my answer. I know, I won't say I think, I know that I need people to know that I'm human and that I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. My kids aren't perfect. My relationship isn't perfect. I struggle like everyone else to sometimes find that, well, a lot of times find that time to just settle and pray and find time to read my Bible. I'm human. And my relationship with my husband too, we're human. So I need people to know that with that comes, it's hard. Life is hard. I have the same struggles getting up in the morning of kids, get ready for, going to church. Okay. We're a happy family. Come on.
Right. You just got to get yourself collected by the time you get in the church parking lot.
For sure. But with that, I'm very real. So what you see is what you get. And I'm fun. But I can also be very deep too, as well. But so I'm very real. So I won't put on a show and act like I got it all together, because I don't. And with that, I really like, I want the church to know that with that, I hope that makes me approachable.
Yeah.
And I hope that means that we can, confess our sins to each other, or any struggles or temptations, or like anything. My expectation also with the church for myself and for them is just, I I really want us to be out in the community,
Mm.
and I really want, the community is also the church. So I don't want us to forget
Love
about
that.
those that are in the
Oh, I
church.
love that.
And sometimes we do that. We step out, or we think missions has to be so far away. I remember always hearing that, and I'm like, yeah, but I got neighbors that I got to get to know, or even family members. Um, yeah. So I want everyone to be on board with me as well too. I think we're a family, we're a team. We can do this, and um, yeah, if we're just honest and real with each other, it's a lot easier.
Well, and I love that. And probably even honesty when it comes to expectations.
For sure.
I'm going to not speak on your behalf, but I want to just say something on your behalf, kind of. That's weird. I don't know what I just said.
Nope, that's
Um,
okay. What's
but
sad is that I kind of got it.
right. But I would encourage us, like, be careful how we place expectations on Sarah, and that our expectation should be for Sarah to be Sarah,
Mm,
and know that God's working in her life the same way that God's working in each of our lives, and there's process, and
yeah,
and and I there have I've learned over just 7 years at Sunrise almost that well, this pastor's wife sits in this location, but that pastor's
yeah.
wife sits in that location. And like, oh, we just need to throw that stuff out the window. And
I know. And actually, bouncing off of that, Cliff, it's wonderful, because what I realized was, I wanted to show you that, like, when I go to church, I don't sit in the front unless someone takes my Bible or my purse and wants me to sit beside them. So the first Sunday, that's kind of that's how you get me.
right.
Um, but
And I've seen that happen
yeah,
before.
yeah. And I know that and same with my kids too. Like,
Yeah.
the first Sunday that we were at Sunrise, my son had a tantrum, and I was like, I parented for how I parent him, and I was like, okay, sometimes I'm upset too, whatever, but we're doing this together, we're a family. You can have a snack later, and yeah. So
Right. I will never forget the day that April and I and the kids got introduced at Sunrise and kind of commissioned when I became the youth pastor, and we're up on the stage, and both pastors, Rich and Derek, are kind of doing this commissioning of us. And at one point, my son Titus just looks up to April and is like, "I want a snack," and just like won't stop.
yeah,
And then at one point, the boys start getting ready to wrestle, and Derek starts praying for us. And the entire time, one of my boys is on top of the other boy,
yeah,
and we're trying to receive this amazing blessing and prayer and be on display as your new youth pastor and his family. And it was pure chaos for anyone
yeah,
that had their eyes open during the prayer. They
yeah,
witnessed the two boys wrestling on the platform. Um,
yeah.
and
Um,
no, they did not fall off the stage, but
yeah, no
that would make a
injuries.
great
Yeah.
memory. Um, but it was, I had more people come up after that and say, "We are so glad you're here, you're real."
Yeah.
um, and that meant a ton, that a church was able to accept us as real,
Yep.
and not as something that they had elevated us that we were supposed to be. So
Yep.
that's my challenge to the church is, if you can do what you did, do for the Millers, what you did for us, in just allowing us to be real where we are, and
Hmm.
have some of our quirks, and to
Yep.
let my wife be a parent, and
Exactly. Yeah.
to be a mom, to be a wife, to be an ordinary person in our church also.
Yep.
It's going to be a great situation, and you get to be, and then I see also, Sarah, though, like, you guys are involved, you're around, and not afraid to dive in. So I don't see you as just like, oh, Luke, you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, see you later.
Yeah. It's a partnership. It's everything. And that's how we've always looked at it, is it's when we decided that we were going to start it and have a family, that this was a partnership with the kids as well too. So generations bringing that all together, and just yeah. And I don't know, I love it. I love that I've gotten
Yeah.
to know, this is me stepping into Sunrise. And so I love that I've gotten to know all the different groups, and just, and something is, it's so hard learning everyone's names
I know.
and trying to, I want to get to know so many people and talk to them. And so you're all very important to me. But please, patience, and
Right.
just, you know,
Well,
yeah.
I love that. I love getting to raise our kids as pastors' kids, even.
Yeah.
Where my kids are like, I love being a pastor's kid. And I'm like, oh my goodness, can you feel that way the rest of your life? Uh,
Yes. Right.
but I also know that there will be times when they struggle with it, because there's an expectation set on them by certain people, and definitely
Yeah.
not the majority, but by certain people, of how they should act. And
Yeah.
all about right before we shut down for COVID, maybe in January, we got an anonymous comment card in the church, in the offering, that was talking about these kids that we were letting run out of control around the worship
Mm.
center and on the furniture. And, and that Sunday, it was my kid.
It was yours. It was yours.
Oh, we're like,
Well,
oh,
you know, that's funny, because that's actually, my boys said to me, even about dressing nice for church too. I would always, when we first started in ministry, I remember being like, hey, put on your Sunday best and go. And,
yeah,
that's always a tough one, right?
right.
And Ari said to me, Mommy, we're supposed to come as we are. Why do you tell me to change into my play clothes afterwards? Out of the mouth of babes. I
Oh,
literally felt convicted.
right.
And I found that they dress respectful, but they dress because they want to come, and they want to come to church, and they are comfortable. And I thought about that with myself too. If I expect my kids to be real, and I want to be real, then you got to start with the simplicity of it all.
Yeah.
And so little things like that too. The running around is so funny, Cliff, that you mentioned that, because when Levy was little, when we would go to different churches, if Luke was speaking or we were visiting someone, Levy would always say, Mommy, is this the church I can run around in? Is this a church I can run around in at the end? And he'd wait to see other kids.
If this
And then
that
I
kind of
remember
church.
just being like, do you want to make friends? You go make friends. That's what kids do. They go and they run around, and so it could be like a kid saying, why are there so many walkers in the room? Why are there so many canes? And I can't, like it goes both ways.
Well, and it goes all over the way. I think it's just a mindset and how we think.
Yeah.
Like this is what I love about Ward Davis, who runs our facilities, is if there's damage that was done by the youth department, after a Wednesday night, Ward's attitude is fantastic. Our facility is being used for ministry,
Awesome.
versus the mentality that says we have to do everything in the ministry that protects our facility. Now that's obviously, I'm embellishing that.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but I love
I
his
love
attitude,
that.
is it's like the facility serves the ministry,
Yeah.
and like I look at those kids running around, and as much as like, my kids should not have been running across the chairs, yeah,
Yeah.
and I talk to them about that, but I talk to them about it not as a pastor's kid, but just as like a person in general, having respect for the furniture.
Yeah.
Uh, but anyway, but I also know that our kids get each other worked up, so we get to we're just gonna get to watch
I
that.
think my kids ran around with your kids, and we also brought walkie-talkies for at the end of the service.
Oh man,
Yeah.
this
Maybe
is
that comment
so
card
cool.
was about my kids.
Yeah, well, let me tell y'all, if you're I do have a little bit of a philosophy about anonymous comment cards. So I would way rather see someone just walk up to us and confront in love
Absolutely.
in person, rather than writing an anonymous note. But that's a whole nother
Absolutely.
story for a
Yeah.
different day, about Matthew 18. So
Yeah.
well, okay, Sarah, we've gone way over. This has been amazing, and I love how unscripted it was. Um, anything else that you want to say to us as we wind things up today? Just as, and by the way, the people in the comments are just loving this time. So this has
Oh,
been really fun to
that's
read.
great. That's great. It's been great. Thanks so much for having me. So, yeah, I can't think of anything else. I think the main thing is just, yeah, let's just all go back to the simplicity of everything. And I just I hope that I'm approachable to everyone. That and once we get a little bit more settled here, it'll be so nice to do visits
Yeah.
and yeah. So
Well, we love having you here and Luke and Ari and Levy. I'm thrilled to get 2 hours in the car with you all today as we take you back to San Francisco this afternoon and send you off to Canada tomorrow for hopefully a brief stay in Canada before you head back
yeah.
here. But it's
I'll say one thing for Luke's, or I have to say this for
okay.
Luke's
Okay.
sermon when he said the whole like, hey, you know how people are like, are we there yet? Are there snacks or whatever? All those questions in the vehicle on Sunday. When he said that, he wasn't really necessarily talking about the kids. I'm all like, are we there yet? Can we stop and get some gum? Yeah.
Well, and then the
Oh, you
older
know,
you
that's
get,
me being real. That's me being real.
the older you get, the more you have to just stop to go to the bathroom. So
I know, but even just being like, I'm sorry, I agree. Like, I would like to get some Skittles or something.
okay. So today when we're driving over to the Bay Area, if we need to stop, you just say it and
Okay.
I say the word.
Okay. Done. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
well.
I'll also say if like Luke's kicking my seat or something or on my
Oh,
side
man.
of the seatbelt.
Great time. Such a good time. I'm gonna close us in prayer. And Sandra
Awesome.
reminded us about praying for just where things are with our nation. Obviously,
Absolutely.
a unique spot where our president has COVID and
Yep.
all the politicization, is that the right word? That's going on
Mhm.
around that. And we're just praying for hearts to turn back to the Lord. So let's pray and then we'll kind of wind this up.
For sure.
All right, Lord, thank you so much. What a blessing this morning to get to talk to Sara, and for more people at Sunrise to just see her heart and understand who she is and how her love for you just transcends generations. Um, God, would you bless her? And I pray that you would protect her, really stepping into this role of being the quote unquote pastor's wife. I pray that our expectations on her would be appropriate. Um, I pray, Lord, that you will strengthen her and just give her that continued ability to be herself, to be honest, to not feel like she ever needs to put up a pretense of who she is based upon um, being in a spot of being Luke's wife, Lord. But she is Sara, your daughter, and may we see her that way too. And I pray that you'll give her strength as they raise Ari and Levy, um, and wisdom and diligence and patience along the way. And then God, as we reflect on where this country is right now, it is a unique time in history. And we pray in the name of Jesus for this nation, for society to turn back to you. I pray that we would repent of our wickedness along the way, that we as a society would repent of everything where we have turned our backs on you, and we would humble ourselves before you and seek your face. We do pray for our president this morning and for his recovery. And Lord, we pray over the election as it is just a tumultuous time in this country. And we would pray that your will would be done in the name of Jesus. Amen. Oh, well, everyone says all kinds of things. Sara, you are the coolest lady, says Kathy Wainscott. We cannot
Aw.
wait for you to come home, says
Yeah.
Glenda,
Home.
praying for your safe travels. And other people are just laughing. So
That's great.
which is what we should do. But
That's what we should do. Yeah. I'm
oh,
laughing too, and I don't know
right,
why.
exactly. So it is on that note that we're going to say goodbye to you all out there. So if you would, oh goodness, I need to make some announcements here at the end. So bear with me, Sarah.
Okay,
But this is
sounds
the
good.
point where I remind people that we have this week Pastors Live on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and hopefully I won't forget this week, that I'll actually be there, um, uh, and we'll have a delightful time together. But I also want to remind you, coming up this coming Sunday, the 11th, we are going to have our annual church meeting, and this is required by our church's constitution. And we would encourage you to be there, because you don't have to drive, you don't have to walk. You just have to sit down in your living room with a computer and jump onto our live Zoom webinar, is what we're having, where we will be talking about what God has done in our church family over the last year, where He's taking us in this next year. And it should be a great time. You're going to be receiving an email from me today with much more information about how to sign up and to be able to join us for the annual church meeting coming up Sunday at 1 p.m. Whew, there we go. I did it. All right. With that said, so long, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a great week in the Lord here. Bye-bye.